You guys are getting this because Michael's dropped some really solid golden nuggets, right? And one of them is when you're at that financial independence, you get to work versus you have to work. There's a huge difference, right? So think about when you get to work, you have so much joy, you have so much passion, and you bring to the table versus, oh, I have to get up at 7 in the morning. Oh my God, like there's another day. I have to go through another grind, SSDD. That's right. Right. So, which actually, this is brilliant, which dovetails to our next question. So now that you get to work, right, because you get to do what you love, how do you envision your legacy? And what impact do you want to leave as part of this world and part of this rich life and with your children?
Wow, that's a great question, Alan. When I retired early, I was age 36. I'm currently age 47, so it's been a decade now. And so a lot's happened over that decade. But what I will tell you is that I continued my personal development journey. And the best thing about being fired is what we call it, right? Having that financial independence, to work on whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, right? So I tried a number of different businesses. Some of them were successful, some of them were not. I was selling stuff on Amazon. I was trading NFTs. I was buying more real estate. I still buy more real estate. I just bought some last week. And, I got to do lots of different things. I got to have my own seminars. But one of the things that really, I'd say, Alan, for me, that stuck, and you asked me about legacy, was exploring an area of fear. And so one of my biggest fears for the longest time, for decades, we're talking about 3-4 decades, was my fear of speaking up and just sharing my perspective. Even though I'd, done some cool things as an entrepreneur, right? I still had this imposter syndrome that people didn't want to hear what I have to say. And so even though I, did the fire thing, I was very passive about it, right? I started a blog. Even though I shared some of these ideas, if someone asked me about it, I'd be very nonchalant about it. I wouldn't really be that excited. I'm more excited now, as you can hear me now, but I was not that person. I was the person that was just like, oh yeah, it's cool. You should try this, right? Check out my article, right? And what happened though was, like, during these 10 years, I got to attend more Tony events. I got to volunteer. I got to contribute. And one of the best things is I went to this global leadership summit, which teaches kids about leadership and communication and life skills from Tony Robbins' actual his best of the best team. He brings them to a college campus. And so I go volunteer. Alan's been there with me as well. We become these youth captains, right? And we're holding space for them. And one of the best things about it though was that we get to do this board break, which is a belief busting exercise. And so we see these kids, right? As teens, right? You can imagine all of the limiting beliefs that they have, especially you guys, parents that are listening, right? Think about all of your limiting beliefs that you had as kids. Like, nobody likes me. I have no friends. Like, what's wrong with me? All these different things, right? And then we help them to show them, what's the truth? Is that really true? And we give them a different perspective, right? And they're connecting with other people and they're shifting their ideas of what's possible. And then they break through these boards. And, Alan and I, we're just like, oh my gosh, that's just so inspiring, man. That's like the best thing ever. And when we're done with that, the youth captains, we actually get to do the exercise as well. And so the reason why I share the story is that, I wrote on this board, no one wants to hear what I have to say. And I literally, when I broke through it, changed my life. And that's where things just started opening up, because I made a decision to shift so terrified of, and led me on this crazy journey of starting a podcast, of getting opportunities to go on TV, and then ultimately Good Morning America last year. And so there's a lot of steps in between, but the point is that none of that would have ever happened without having hit fire first, because then I had the freedom to explore these deeper seated areas of growth. And so again, the reason why I'm so passionate about you and your kids achieving fire, not about the money, to be honest, it's about the freedom and what you can do with that. Because once you get that freedom, once you get to do the work that you want to do because you're passionate about it, people see that, people connect with it, and then you're serving the world at your highest level. So that's what it's about, Alan, I think, for me, and why I share so passionately about fire.
And that's a beautiful story that you share about your legacy. Not only building this legacy, but sharing with other people. But this is something you're also inspiring others, and most important, your kids, because now they have an opportunity. They see, like, well, I don't have to do a 9-to-5 job if I don't want to. I can do whatever I want, and I get to do what I want to do in life. Wow, this is so powerful. 100% agree with the GYLs. Now, guys, if you listen, so Michael doesn't have to attend another seminar. He doesn't have to read another book, but he still does, because he focuses on growth mindset, right? So not only growth mindset about investing, but gain higher knowledge, because he's continuing learning. Now, he doesn't have to do any of that, because he's already get to do whatever he wants, whenever he wants, however long he wants, but he still does it. So I hope you guys are taking really good notes, right? So Michael, last question is, if somebody were to start from scratch today, like if you were to give yourself advice, back then, if you had to start everything from scratch today, what would you do and what would you have done differently?
Great question. I think if I were giving advice to someone just starting out, it's really starting with knowing that you have the ability to achieve this. This is not something that is super complex. The path to fire, I would say, is simple. I'm not necessarily saying it's easy, but it is simple. And again, once you get that mindset of knowing that you can do it, the next step becomes, okay, what actions should I take next? So one of the first actions I would say is really just going out there and educating yourself. And it doesn't have to be something that's boring. I'm not saying to go out and pick up an accounting book, right? Go out and find a book that is inspiring of someone that's done it before, right? There's one of my friends, she wrote a book called Quit Like a Millionaire. And so this is a story about her journey, right? She was an immigrant, and she came to the States, and she figured out how to achieve fire. Part of just getting inspired helps you to shift your belief of what's possible, right? I got lucky because obviously I was born into my family. I had some of these reference points. Most people don't. So go pick up the Fire Planner. That gives you some of the insight. Hey, this is possible. I don't just showcase my story, right? I showcase actually probably a dozen different people that have achieved fire in different ways, whether it's through real estate, whether it's through stocks, whether it's through entrepreneurship. There's different ways and different accelerators, let's just say, along the way. And then there's some people in the fire space that choose to save, let's just say, 70% of their income. And while this is not necessarily a bad thing, sometimes people get so focused on the goal of achieving fire. I'm going to save 70% of my income and I'm only going to live on $25,000, $30,000, right? I'm going to do everything else just bare bones. And while you can do that, and while that will accelerate your ability to get to your critical mass faster, I think there is a little bit of a danger in living in a scarcity mindset. So I'm more the proponent of focus on expanding your income instead of minimizing your expenses. You have to do both. You have to have a balance, but I'd much rather see people expand their income so that your expenses just become relatively small relative to your income. You can only minimize your expenses so much, and then you're just eating like, a handful of rice every day, right? And that's not necessarily healthy either, right? So right, I just wanted to share that because when you go explore the fire space, you will see that there are some people that focus a little bit more on the scarcity mindset.
100%. You can't eat ramen every day, 99 cents ramen for breakfast.
You can, but you're going to be incredibly unhealthy.
Very unhealthy, right? And then what happened is the trap that you fall into is because then you make the $1 million whatever, then you have to spend all that $1 million back to regain your health.
Yes.
So that doesn't make sense
True.
either. Understand what is your end goal. So the foundation's always been like what Tony talked about, like your physiology. Your health is your wealth. It starts with that. When you have your health is down, then you can build on top of that. But if you don't, there's an Indian proverb that I love, right? Which is when you're healthy, you have 1,000 wishes. When you're sick in your deathbed, you only have one. So I'll let you guys sink in with that one. So when you're healthy, you have 1,000 wishes. In your sick bed, dying, you only have one. All the riches in the world can't buy you health. So it starts with that. Michael, I love our conversation. It's been so inspiring and so many golden nuggets that I was able to take out of this. I hope you guys are taking notes out there. So how do we get a hold of you? Where's your book? Is it on Amazon, or how do they get your book?
Yeah, my book is on Amazon, translated in a few different languages, but I think the easiest one is the English. So if you go to financiallyalert.com/TFP, that's the easiest way to get on Amazon. You can check out my blog as well called financiallyalert.com. And then also for you parents out there, I'm actually setting up a youth entrepreneurship summit camp this summer. We're actually launching it in Vancouver, British Columbia. So if you're interested, we're going to be doing this in August 6th to 9th. So if you want to check that out, you can find that over at youthentsummit.com. And we'd love to have kids learn about business, learn about entrepreneurship, learn how to communicate and lead. I think, again, this is something that, again, falls along to building that mindset early and often, and then just letting them loose and see where they land amongst the stars.
Is there a minimum age and maximum age?
So the age range that we're looking at is ages 13 to 17, ideally. Although 18 is probably okay as well. So basically teens.
Do they have to have a plan, or do they just come in and just learn and then they can start their own plan?
They're going to be able to come in. They don't need a plan at all. We are going to work on, a business plan, show them how to build a business plan from the ground up. They're going to have to learn how to present to a Shark Tank-like panel. And if it's something good enough, we're actually going to potentially fund them as well. So it should be a lot of fun and engaging. So yeah, if you guys are interested, definitely check it out. youthentsummit.com. We'd love to have your kids there.
Michael, again, thanks so much for your time and all your expertise and all the information you've given us. We're very grateful. And let's go ahead and wrap this up. Until then, live purposely, love passionately, and be the most remarkable parent that you're meant to be. We'll see you in future sessions.